Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is the first video of mine that you are seeing. And if you are new here, my name is Julia Kelsey. I'm 25 years old. I live in Orlando, Florida, and I have a budgeting and a money management coaching business that I started over on Instagram, but have moved over to YouTube as well. And this is where I show and share with others that budgeting can be simple and actually enjoyable, and help them get to a place where they are easily accomplishing their financial goals while still being able to live a life that they enjoy. So today's video is going to be another one of my usual budget recaps, this time for the month of March. So a couple videos ago, I did a budget with me for March and kind of showed you what my plan was for the month and kind of what I expected. And now I'm going to go through the same template, but show you what actually happened. So what my actual income was, my actual expenses, and anything I allocated to savings and debt payoff, as well as any changes that I think I might need to make moving forward based on the spending that I did in March. And as always, I will be showing you my budgeting template and spreadsheet. And if you like this template and think it might work for you, I do sell them individually on my website for just $10. And that includes the monthly budgeting template I'll show you, the sinking fund summary that I will show you, as well as a bunch of other trackers. So if you're interested in that, I will leave the link in the description. And all of these templates are always included in any of my coaching packages as well. So now let's jump right in and see what actually happened throughout the month of March. So like always, I will start with my income. And I had expected to have income of $4,300 in March. And my actual income ended up being just slightly higher than that at $4,352. So about $52 more than I expected, which is great because I will be able to use that to account for a little bit of overspending that I did, as well as put a little bit of that into savings. And then moving on to my expenses, I will start with my fixed expenses, which are the ones that really don't fluctuate much month to month. They're pretty set in stone, the amounts are pretty consistent, and the due dates are pretty consistent. So I'll run through these really quickly because a lot of them came out just as I expected, and a lot of them are similar to the other budget with me's that I've done. So the first one is my rent. So that came out as my normal $1,585, and I do live in a luxury one-bedroom apartment in downtown Orlando, so that's reflective of the area and the amenities that I have. And then my next one is just my car payment. Again, this came out as expected at my $302. And next is my Wi-Fi, came out as its normal $34.99. Both of my fitness gym memberships came out as expected. My first one is just like a basic crunch membership, came out as its $10.60. And then my Orange Theory fitness membership, which is the 8 classes a month version, came out as its normal $99. And then the next one is just a couple business subscriptions. So this includes my Canva subscription and then also my website renewal. So that came out to its normal $58.99. A couple more personal subscriptions. My Amazon Music came out as its normal $5.65. And Hulu came out as expected at basically $80. And this is basically my cable. This replaces any other streaming or cable services. So that's why it's a little bit more. And then my iTunes, which is just like extra storage on my phone, is $2.99. The last two within this fixed expenses section do fluctuate just a little bit, but I do still consider them fixed expenses because they do happen every month, and I have a really good estimate of what they are going to be. It's just going to fluctuate a couple dollars here and there depending on how much I use. So the first one is utilities. So that's going to be like water, electricity, gas, anything like that. And I had estimated $175, and this actually came out to be $157. So I was quite a bit under this, which is really good. So I'll be able to use that towards a couple of my variable spending categories that were over budget. So I was under here by about $18. And then the last one is insurance. So this is mainly my car insurance, and then $12.50 of this is my renter's insurance. And again, I was just $1 under my estimate here, so it came out at $131. So the next section within my expenses section are my variable expenses, and these are the ones that are going to fluctuate a little bit more month to month. These are going to be the ones where a lot of your daily spending is happening, and the ones you want to stay on top of to make sure you're staying within budget. So my first one is my eating out category, and a couple budget with me's ago, I actually decreased this budget. So I used to do $50 a week, and I decreased that to $40 a week, which has been working out really well for me, and I've been able to use that savings to go towards a couple of my other categories. So that's again what I did in March, and there was 5 weeks in March, so I did $40 times 5, which is just a budget of $200, and I ended up spending about $207, almost $208. So just slightly over budget here, not a big deal at all, and I'm happy with how I've been able to consistently stick to this new budget the past couple of months. And then the next category is my auto category, and this one I've definitely been struggling with a little bit the past couple of months. As we all know, gas prices are very high, and it's also a little bit unpredictable. It's hard to say when and how it's going to move. So budgeting for this right now is just a little bit difficult, and I've been playing around with different scenarios and different budget limits per week to see what works for me right now. And so in March, I had estimated to do $25 a week in gas. And keep in mind that this category is mainly gas, but it also includes a couple tolls if I had to pay them as well. So most of this is just gas. So I estimated $25 per week, and that definitely was a little too low. I actually talked about this in my April budget with me that I'm bumping bumping that up to $35 a week because of this overspending. It wasn't terrible, but definitely $25 was not enough, especially because gases have been either staying the same or even increasing even more. So definitely going to need to increase this budget a little bit. So like I said, I budgeted $125 for the month and ended up spending $145. So I was $20 over budget, which is definitely not terrible given the circumstances and the situation, but just shows me that I'm going to need to make some adjustments for the following month, which I've already put forth for the month of April. Kind of a similar situation going on in my next category, which is my groceries category. Prices are increasing in this area as well. Maybe not as significant as in the gas category, but definitely still increasing. And I've made a couple of adjustments here as well. Especially the money that I've been saving in my eating out category has mostly gone into this category to account for those increased prices. So my budget here was $300, and that includes a HelloFresh subscription. I do like getting HelloFresh. It just makes it easier to cook for one person. So I got 3 boxes this week, which is included in this amount, and then I do every other week grocery trips for just around the house items, breakfast items, Diet Coke, stuff like that. So with all of that combined, I had budgeted $300 and I ended up spending $323. So again, slightly over budget, but I'm not mad about this. I definitely know that that $300 was a bit conservative considering there was 5 weeks in March. So I'm not surprised that this happened. I was challenging myself a little bit to standard that $300, knowing that it could possibly go over. So I'm actually keeping the same budget for April, but April is only a 4-week month, so I definitely think that that will be doable. And again, I'll be able to make up this $23 with my extra income, so it's not a big deal, and just shows I need to be a little bit more flexible, especially when there's a longer month. And then my last category is just my miscellaneous category, and this really encompasses just anything that doesn't fall within those other categories. So just little purchases that come up throughout the month that don't have a specific place. So I normally budget $50 a month in this category, which I did again in March, and I ended up spending $47. So under budget here, which is great. And then I do have one other line item here, which is just my checking account cushion, which is basically the buffer I have sitting in my checking account just in case something unexpected comes up or bills come out higher than expected. I just have a little bit of a buffer sitting there, and I'm not bringing my account down to completely zero every single month. So sometimes when I have a couple of extra dollars left over at the end of the month, I will stick it here. I do already have a pretty decent buffer going, so I don't budget to put anything towards this every month, but if I have any couple dollars left over, I'll put it here. So in total for my expenses, I had estimated to spend about $3,163, and I ended up spending $3,192. So we can see I came in a little bit over budget, which is not surprising with how over budget I was in my gas and my groceries category. The nice thing is that I did have a little bit of a buffer with my utilities being under budget to account for this. So in total, I only ended up going over budget by about $30, which again, I'll be able to easily make up with that $50 of extra income that I had coming in. So we'll see that towards the end. So now let's move on to my sinking fund section. Remember that sinking funds are like mini savings accounts where you set aside money every single month for a particular purpose or expense that you might not necessarily know when the expense is going to come up or how much the expense is going to be when it happens, but you're kind of just preparing ahead of time for that expense. So I want to go through my categories and show you what I allocated throughout the month and also what I spent. So we can see here that this portion of the tracker only shows the allocation of my March income that went towards each of my sinking funds. So I'm actually going to switch over to a sinking fund summary that will show me what I budgeted for the month, what I actually put towards each sinking fund, and then also my spending. And I can keep track of the balances in each of my funds. So my first category is my clothes/beauty category, and this encompasses a lot of things, but just like clothes, beauty, hair care, skincare, makeup, any purchases like that would fall within this category. And I've been budgeting just mainly what is left over after I made sure I funded some of my more priority sinking funds. So in March, I budgeted to put $15 towards this account, and I actually did put that $15 in there. And then I ended up spending $29, I think was some like face wash and stuff from Target. So I had started with a negative $10 in this account, and now I'm actually ending the month at a negative $24. But keep in mind that I keep all of these sinking funds in the same account. So just because one fund might go negative, it doesn't mean I have a negative bank account or anything. The other positive accounts are accounting for this. However, I do want to make sure that I'm paying closer attention and might have to up my allocations to this fund in the near future, because I know that I do have a wedding coming up and I'm going to be wanting to buy like a dress and maybe some new makeup. So definitely want to get this back up into the positive and maybe even get a little bit of a buffer going for some spending I know will be happening in a couple months. And then my next category is my fun category. This really encompasses like entertainment, going out type purchases. So again, this is not one of my priority sinking funds, so I'm doing just what I can. And for March, that was $15. And I actually put that $15 in there, and I actually didn't end up spending anything with this account. So I started with a negative 34 in this account and ended with a negative 19. So I got a good little bump up to being less negative. And again, we will continue to get this account in the positive as soon as possible. And then my next category is my holiday/gifts category, and this is mainly like my Christmas category, what I plan to use to buy Christmas presents. So my goal is to have $600 by Christmas, so that would be $50 a month. So that's normally my goal. And then if I happen to use this fund for like birthday gifts or anything else throughout the year, I'll usually up my allocation a little bit to make sure I have that $600 by the end of the year. But in March, I just budgeted to do my normal $50, which I actually put into this account. I didn't do any spending, so the balance in this account at the beginning of the month was $8, and I'm ending the month with $58. And then the next category is not a very exciting one. This is my household category, where I just buy like decor and just household things, candles, stuff like that. And again, not one of my priority sinking funds, and I actually didn't budget or spend anything in this account. So my starting balance started at 0 and ended at 0. There was really nothing going on in this account in March. And then the next one is Niko's sinking fund. This is anything that I would need to purchase for Niko, his vet visits, prescriptions, food, toys, anything like that. So I budgeted $85 in March, and I actually put that $85 in there. And then I spent $48. So a part of his big semi-annual subscription came out. This one was for his food. So I get that every 6 months, and then right around the same time his prescriptions come out. So I know that that expense is going to be coming out in April. So I want to make sure I have a little bit of a buffer here, knowing that that larger expense is going to be coming out. So I started the month with $22 in this account, and I ended with almost $59. So with that $59 and then allocating another probably $85 in April, I'll have more than enough for his prescriptions when it comes out. And then the next category is my car maintenance category, and there hasn't been a lot of activity going on in this category in the past couple of months because I had a decent buffer going that I was happy with. Granted that my car was fairly new and I just wasn't expecting many repairs or maintenance needed. However, I did actually have some spending come up in this category that I kind of forgot about until it came up. So I had to renew my tags and my registration this month, as well as I had to pay a parking ticket. So that is what came out of this category. In total, it came to about $74. So I started with my normal $200 buffer in this account, and then that went down to $125. So now going forward, I am going to start allocating just a little bit to this account over the next couple months because I do want to get it back up to that $200 mark. That's just where I feel comfortable right now. So I am going to do that slowly over time. Obviously, I could just put the whole $75 in there at once and bring it right back up to that $200. But there are other things I want to prioritize, and I'm okay with doing this slowly over time to get it back up to that $200. And then the next category is my medical category. This is again just kind of like a safety net category for co-pays or prescriptions or anything that I might need if I happen to have to go to the doctor. So I just budgeted $20 for the month of March, and I actually put that $20 in there. No spending happened this month, so I started the month with $35 in this category and ended with $55. And then the next category is my tech category, which I've talked about quite a bit. But basically this was a category I previously used in case like my phone or my computer broke and I would need to fix it. It was kind of like a safety net for those types of things. However, at the end of last year, I used this category to purchase the camera that I'm filming on right now, and that made that category quite negative. So I used a little bit of my emergency fund at the end of the year to bring this back up to positive, and now I'm kind of just playing catch up and replenishing that amount that I took. So anything that I put in this category right now is going right back into that emergency fund. So I budgeted $25 for the month of March. I actually put that $25 in there, and then I spent the $25, and by spent, I put it back towards the emergency fund. So it's no longer sitting in the sinking fund, it's back in that savings account. So because I moved that $25 out, I started the month at 0 and also ended the month at 0. And then the last two categories are just a couple of yearly bills. So bills that come out every year instead of every month, but I still set aside something every month for them so that I already have the money available when the bill comes out. So my first one is Amazon Prime, and I just do $10 a month for that. So I budgeted and actually allocated $10 in March, and I didn't spend anything because this bill doesn't come out till September. So I started the month with basically $60 in this account and ended at almost $70. And then the same idea for my Crunch renewal, so just my yearly renewal at the gym. I do $5 a month for this one, so that is what I did in March. Didn't spend anything because this bill actually just came out last month. So I started the month with less than $1 in this category, and now I have $5.63. So in total, I had budgeted to put $225 towards my sinking funds, and I actually was able to do that. I ended up spending $177. So my total balance over all of my sinking funds actually went up this month, which I'm really happy about. So I had started the month at $282 in total, and I was able to end at basically $330. So that is awesome. And now we'll just jump back to my monthly budget template to finish out the rest of my budget. So the next section is actually my savings section, which I'm going to talk about at the very end because I actually have a little bit left over that I'm going to put here. So I'm going to skip down to my debt payoff section, which just encompasses my minimum payment for my student loans. So that came out as its normal $911.45, which is exactly what I budgeted. And then the last little section here is my overview section. So this is what tells me if I've allocated every single one of my dollars that came in during the month, if I've given every single one of those dollars a purpose. Because remember, we are doing a zero-based budget, so every dollar that comes in has to be given a job. Even if that's just going to savings, being spent, whatever it may be, it has to be given a purpose. So we can see here that I'm in the red. I have $23 of money that I brought in March that I have yet to give a job. So what I'm gonna do is put it into my savings account. So like I mentioned quite a bit, my main priority this year is paying down my student loans, and this savings account reflects that. So I have a student loan fund, which is basically a savings account where, just like this, I will accumulate $10, $15, $20 that I'm able to set aside in a particular month into this savings account, and then I'll use the savings account once it grows to be a little bit more to make extra debt payments. So that's where this $23 is gonna go. It's gonna go into this savings account, and then midway through the year, towards the end of the year, I'll use it to make an extra debt payment. And you can also see that I didn't budget to put anything towards this account at the beginning of the month. I didn't expect to have much, if any, left over. However, with that additional income that I was able to bring in, I did end up having a little bit left over, as well as being able to account for a little bit of overspending. So with that extra money, I was able to put it towards the savings account, which is always my goal going forward, is to have a little bit of extra income left over that I'm able to put extra or fund any priorities. So now with that allocation to my savings, we can see now I'm in the green and I have a 0, so I know that I've allocated every single one of my dollars. So that is it for my budget recap for the month of March. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can see more videos like this from me. Also, go over and follow me on Instagram so you can see content from me in between YouTube videos. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.